Hey everybody, welcome back to Geezer Rider. This is another installment in our ongoing heated gear series, and this video will be for heated socks, specifically the FIRSTGEAR heated socks. These are part number 518968, and they are an oversock. So they're to be used with your favorite running socks. So if you would normally wear a very thick sock and it was tight in your boot or shoe, you would wear a slightly thinner sock because this would be giving you some of the heat. You don't want it to be too tight if you get off and walk around. You don't want it to abrade and, rub on you, a blister or chafing or something like that. There actually is not a lot of detail on FIRSTGEAR's website other than this graphic here, which shows that where they're giving you the heat is up near the toes and the ankle. They're not really putting any heat on the top of the toe box or the top of your instep, or up around your ankle. And the idea there is, I think, convection heat is going to flow up through your shoe, your footwear, and cover those areas as well. So as long as you're getting sufficient heat in the toe area, you're pretty good. What is here is the part numbers and the sizing. So this 518968 that we're reviewing is considered an extra large to 2XL. I will tell you that the packaging is actually labeled as medium large, but the UPC code on the back has the sticker for the XL, 2XL sizing. So we're going to see together if it runs true to size, because the little tab where they're supposed to magic marker the size that's actually in the box is all blank. Nobody bothered to write on that. I'm also not 100% clear if these are on clearance, closeout, discontinued or not. I'll do a little more poking around. The time of this video is December 2020. I'm sure they've come out with something new, as most manufacturers eventually do, and things phase out. Doesn't mean they're not any good. It could just be that they're moving on to the next model line. What I did find is, as usual, sometimes the retailers will have more information on a product than the actual manufacturer's website. And this appears to be the case. So if you hop over to Cycle Gear, for example, and again, we're not sponsored by anybody. We don't get any kickbacks or money or endorsements or free products or anything. This is all stuff that was either gifted to me for the holiday or we went out and bought on our own, etc. But I'm just using FIRSTGEAR as an example. You can go out to your retailer choice and see if they have the information. And what I did note there was slightly larger versions of the same graphic, like the heated area of the foot, and also the sizing chart. So if you are normally a size 8 to 10 male, for example, you would be in their medium size sock. If you were a 10 to 13 men's sock size, like I'm 10.5 wide, I would be in their large, which handles, again, size 10 to 13. So this is a fairly generic sizing chart, and the way they gauge these is medium large. So I'm somewhere in this range between 8 and 13, according to the little green and black stickers on the packaging. If you've been following the heated gear series, it looks like there's a lot going on here. We've got a little meter, but some of this will look familiar to you from some of the other segments. And, there's a lot on the table here that's not necessary for you to operate the heated socks. We're just going to demonstrate power draw and stuff. So I have here a motorcycle battery. I have the Gerbing heat controller that we reviewed in another segment. I have the remote control to control that heat controller remotely, obviously, and the power lead off the motorcycle battery to get power to the controller. So let's dive into the FIRSTGEAR heated sock liner. So pretty typical retail packaging. Doesn't look like, anything could really damage it. It's basically a soft product with a couple of wire leads. I would say it's acceptable or slightly more than acceptable. It's definitely branded, doesn't appear to be a knockoff. I'm looking for manufacturer origin, says made in China. What's not these days? Not much. But one of the few things that it does call out here is that it's lightweight, heats up in seconds, has flexible heating powers, and is hand wash. And that would be expected. You wouldn't, want the power cord to be stuck in a washing machine. It's obviously going to get corroded or ruined, and certainly wouldn't go in a dryer where it would, melt the wires. I'll let you go onto the site and read the verbiage if you want. Basically, it says our heated oversocks are very easy to use. Use them over your favorite riding socks. Please note the oversocks are labeled left and right, so they're foot specific. They're not these generic tubes of cloth that some manufacturers have. And they're ultra thin carbon fiber heating elements, which is good to point out. It's, new technology. Provides heel to toe coil free warmth without hot spots. So even heat. And coil-free means you don't have a bunch of wires looped up under your foot that you're going to feel when you're walking around or operating in the controls, like the shift lever or the rear brake. So let's open the package and see what we get in the box, so to speak. And of course, there's the obligatory staple on the product, anti-theft, I suppose. And the placard, retail packaging. There's the UPC code if you're interested for this size. Again, this is supposed to fit between size 8 and 13 if it's labeled correctly. We'll find out. So I'm going to set this aside for a moment. We have a user manual in the box. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. The socks themselves, which I'll unpackage in a moment. The power lead to attach to your battery, should you not already have one. What I do note is it doesn't include any spare fuses, which some manufacturers will give you a couple different size fuses. But since this isn't like a heat controller, for example, they know the maximum draw of their socks. So the fuse is probably sized as though you were just only going to use the socks. And then what's in this bag is a Y cable. And what the Y cable is for is to go from a single output on the heat controller, run a wire down each leg of your pant legs to each sock. And that's if you don't already have heated pants that have the pass-through wires like this Y cable built into it. And if you need further explanation on that, please go back and look at our overview of heated pants video or the warm and safe dual power heated pants video where we explain the running of this wire down the legs in much more depth. So I'll set the package aside, and I'll set the power connector to the battery side because we obviously already have that here. Let's go ahead and unbag the socks. Also, while I'm getting this out, and remember in the Heated Gear series, we cover caveats and pitfalls of power draw and charging systems. I strongly encourage you to go back and review those videos and get some of those takeaway questions, so that homework, so you can answer whether or not this would be too big a burden on your charging system or your battery for your particular bike. So they are supposed to be labeled left and right. I'm looking for the marker and not seeing it off the top of my head here. Let's look inside. Okay, medium L. So that's just the sizing. Not quite sure which is which here. We're going to figure that out. What I do feel is that I can tell where the heating elements are, but they're carbon fiber, they're flat. The other thing, and I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to make this out on the video, but these are what are called flat seams, where the garment is sewn together. It's butted together and stitched across the seam instead of overlapped. So what this means is you don't have a thick seam rubbing on your foot as you're trying to walk along. It's this nice flat seam. That's a indication of a quality garment, and they're definitely taking your comfort and wear and tear into mine, because if it's not rubbing, it's also not wearing on the sock either. Nice elastic cuff, looks like it's going to hold on and stay put. I'm still at a loss for the labeling of left and right. I'll have to read the directions and figure that out. It's probably self-evident, but just not self-evident at the moment. So let's go ahead and wire it up. So we have, this is the orientation of the sock. Let's turn it this way so you can see the logo. And the idea is, unless you have a really tall shank boot, this wire will come out up above where the boot, the cuff of the boot is. So it's not rubbing against your leg so much, right at the point of access. You know, this wouldn't be inside your boot unless you had really tall engineer boots or something like that. This is desirable because the wire is encapsulated, and if you watch the heated insoles video, you'll know that that actually comes out the instep of the heated sole, and the wire just runs up the side of your sock. And it's not overly annoying, but if you're going to get out and walk around a bit, it can be a little annoying. It's something you can work with. But what you get out of the heated sock that you don't get in the insole is all the heat that it generates is actually staying inside the sock, and you're getting heat up, like up on top of your toes. So if you're looking at this graphic, you know, you have heat all the way up to the front of your toes, and I realize it's a little hard to make out, but you also have heat going up the back of your ankle a little bit. And that's something the insoles can't give you directly. So this is direct radiant heat on the back of the ankle, and all you're going to get out of the insoles is some radiant or convection heat when the heat rises up the, you know, up the sock, up into your boot. So I'm looking to see that these are going to be a little bit warmer. Again, you know, I already had the heated insoles, was curious about the heated socks, mentioned it to somebody, and Geezer Claws was good to us this year, and we got some heated socks. So let's go ahead and hook these up. We'll undo the Y cable. And I'm not going to go into great depth on how you would run the Y cable because it is covered in the other segment. What I'm curious is if one is longer than the other, because generally a controller, the heat controller, will sit on your, you know, if you have a heated jacket, it'll be on one side or the other, generally your left side. And that means that the connection would be off center, this connection, and they'll make one a little bit longer than the other to compensate for that. That does not appear to be the choice in this wire. They're equal length, which isn't a problem at all. They're just spending a little more money than they have to, giving you slightly longer wire. Doesn't sound like a lot, but over a couple thousand units, that's a savings to them. The wire quality to me seems good. The connector quality seems good. Wire's a little stiff. It'll probably get stiffer in the cold, but as everything warms up, it'll loosen up. So what do? There is no left and right as far as this is concerned. This is what we'll call monaural. So electrically, each of these connectors is the same as this one. So it doesn't matter. And this will be routed down your pants, coming out underneath your pant cuff, and you plug one into one sock. Nice firm fit. That's good. Means it's not going to back out on you. And try not to have everything topple off. And we'll pick one channel of the controller to connect to. We'll take gray just for the heck of it. So that'll be this guy. And I will apply power to my heat controller. And again, there's a lot going on here, a lot to try and keep up on the table. And if you need more specifics, you can watch some of the other reviews like the heat controller and such. But we'll apply power. And we'll turn on our little ammeter here. And we'll see that we're drawing 0.01 amps without the controller turned on. And we'll turn the controller on, see if I can hold all this together for you. And we said gray. We'll crank it up to, I don't know, 50%. That's 30%, 40%. That should be ample. And we're drawing between 0.6 and 0.3 volts. It's a little spazzy. It's trying to figure things out, but that's less than half an amp. And that is in keeping with what if I can find this for you, I believe it was on the website. Yep. They said 4.1 watts per sock. So if we extrapolate that, so using Ohm's law, I times E equals W. So I is current, W is wattage, and E is voltage. So if we take the 4.1 watts that they tell us that it's going to draw per sock, divide it by 12 volts, we get 0.34. So we'll call that a third of an amp per sock. So realistically, that means that maximum draw for these socks should be 0.6 of an amp, or we'll just round it up to 3/4 of an amp for the purposes of calculating for your charging system. So let's put that to the test. We're at 40% now. Let's crank this up a little bit. And if we go up to 9, should be, sorry, I'm trying to show you the display and read the display. Okay, A is 100%. We'll go ahead and leave it on A, which is 100% draw. And I see one light up. There we go. 0.7 to 0.69. So we're right in keeping with what the manufacturer says it's going to draw. There's some variance based on the controller. There's some power consumption on its part as well. So I would say that the manufacturer's statement about power draw is right on the money. So we're at 100%. These things they claim are going to heat up quickly because they're carbon fiber. I don't have my little meat thermometer that I used in the other video, so I'm just going to do a nice little tactile test here and put my hand in, and boy, are these warming up quick. All right, so a little tough to make out the orientation because my arm is flat and not bent like a foot, but let me turn a little bit here so you can see. So just imagine that this is up my leg a little bit, and this is your foot. So I'm getting heat all the way up into the toes, back through here, and it's slowly starting to come around back towards the heel area. The foot box is always going to be a little bit warmer than the ankle area because you have more wind flow over that, and they know it, and more surface area to cover, and they know it, so they put more heating elements up here. So this one is warming up quickly. It's warming up pretty evenly. Pretty impressive. We'll just check the other one for functionality. And same result, nice and warm already. I'm certainly not going to use these on 100% power. Inside your footwear, even with, wind chill and some of the heat loss, remember your body's still burning calories. It's still trying to create heat. It's still flowing blood through your extremities. So even though that might not be 98.6, all you're trying to do is keep it at temperature from loss. So, it's wintertime, and you don't keep your house at 90 degrees, you keep your house at whatever, 70 degrees, something like that. So a lot of people go crazy like, oh, why can't it reach like 100 degrees or something like that? And general use, you don't need anything that warm. If it's in the 80 to 90 degree mark, that's more than plenty. A lot of people find out over time, and usually when it's too late, they've already started sweating somewhere, the foot, the garment, whatever, and they need to back it down. So what I would suggest is go the other way. Start low and work your way up till you're comfortable. And remember, if you're stuck in stop and go traffic, or you stop for a while, but you don't turn off the heated gear, you don't turn off the bike, turn the controller down to a lower setting, And there are two reasons for that. One is you don't want to overheat and get sweaty. That's bad when you get rolling. And also it will draw less power from the bike while you're just sitting there idling. Or if you're going slow and you're below your charging RPMs, you won't deplete your battery. That becomes more of a concern when you're running heated socks and heated gloves, or plus the jacket, plus the pants, etc. So I am looking at this. I'm not going to take my shoe off and try it on, but just generally looking at this as a sock, I think it is going to be plenty large enough, and I think it's going to be plenty large enough, uses the manufacturer intended, which is as an oversock. So I'm pretty pleased with this. I didn't have a lot of hopes for this brand. I haven't done a lot of work with them, and some of the pictures I saw of the heated sock was just kind of, you know, collapsed and kind of frumpy looking, and you know, a lot of the pictures that they put up just don't do justice to the thing you're trying to look at. So let me bring back CycleGear's graphic here, and as you can see, FIRSTGEAR still has this at $99.95. CycleGear has it at $79.96. And I have a sneaking suspicion I've seen this about $20 cheaper a couple places, but given that you aren't necessarily 100% sure about sizing, I would say these are fairly true to size for their size chart, but you want to get it from someplace you can return it to. And that means don't throw away any of the packaging, don't cut off any of the tags until you're done, and carefully read the merchant's return information. A lot of places won't take back electronics or electrical components at all, just as a policy. So before you think you save yourself 10 or 20 bucks, make sure of their return policy. FIRSTGEAR does have something interesting, and that's a 2-year manufacturer's warranty. At FIRSTGEAR, we craft our gear to enhance the joy of riding. We are proud of what we make. If your FIRSTGEAR product fails to perform because of a defect in materials or workmanship, we will make it right for you. Just email or give us a call. Our toll-free number is sewn inside most FIRSTGEAR garments, and they'll work with you. So I'm going to look and see if that's true. And it may be here in very small print, but my old eyes can't make that out. But regardless, their website is still there. They're going to stand behind it. And if you buy it from a place like CycleGear or Revzilla, they're going to stand by it too. Or if you buy it off Amazon, you're protected by Amazon's purchasing policies. So I have this on level 1 right now, which is 10% of the maximum capacity of the controller. And I'm just going to do another quickie heat check here. It should have cooled off from that higher temperature, and I still feel just a little bit of heat, but it's even, and you know, that would certainly take the edge off if it was really cold out, like a 32-degree day, for example, where, you know, let's say it's safe to ride, all the black ice is gone and everything, temperatures happen to drop down again. You might want to crank it up a little bit more than that, but I'm pretty impressed, especially with the stitching quality. I know I mentioned that earlier, but it's worth noting because when you see some of the discount heated socks, like some of the rechargeable battery ones that run off the lower voltage batteries with the little remote control, and you see that the seam is on the sides, for example, you know, not down low where there's room in the toe box area, for example, of the garment, and you see that big rolled seam there, that's a cheaper way for them to do it, and it's also a much more uncomfortable way for you to do it. So that is definitely something to look out for. I invite you to ask questions, leave comments. Please like the video if you found it helpful, and please subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified when we put up additional information. Ride safe. Namaste.